Hello everyone, George here, and I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the game that I'm making, but you know what, I decided to go ahead and give an update because it's kind of hard for you to understand what's going on with this whole process while I'm creating things. I'm not making this game like a standard game. I actually don't have an idea, opinion, or how this game is going to work. All I know is it's going to be some sort of a tower-based placement type game. And since I last posted anything, there have been quite a few changes. The first part is last night I just finished our fire totem. I call them totems or towers or whatever you want to, but anyway, this was made in ZBrush, and I wanted to take a few seconds to talk about the process of how I go about creating things like this. So obviously, I usually start off in Maya first. This is the ZBrush final version, but I do get something together inside of Maya. I don't typically work with Z-spheres. I'll get something very simple looking, maybe based off a tower, maybe just a simple cylinder extruded upwards with some subdivisions so that when ZBrush subdivides the mesh into multiple quads, things actually work out. Then I'll bring my asset into ZBrush, and if we go over to, let's see, import, I can show you what I started with. So let's go to, and I do keep a fairly anally consistent folder structure, so I have a Maya obj export, which means this stuff is probably going out somewhere else. Bring this on up, hit T so we can go to edit mode. Oh, I was in edit mode. Control N, bring it in, T, and as you can see, this thing started from nothing more than a cylinder with a couple segments inside of it. And what we ended up with was, if we load tools and go to my Z tools, let's see, Z tool flame totem, there we go. So it started with this, and then we ended up with this. Now I currently have the cavity map showing, so let's probably get rid of that. Let's go to texture maps and turn that off. And this is what I ended up with creating, about 6 million 6.5 million polygons. The idea is that it's got two faces. It's got the face here with a tongue, and it's got a face here with, you know, that thing in the back of your throat that people get removed all the time. I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. But what I want is for the fire to actually brood and pop out of up here. And then once I've done that, I go through a series of polypaint steps. So polypaint, let's see, so we have our texture here, and then we would go to polypaint and then colorize, and then we would do all of our coloring and so forth and so on, utilizing things like masks and whatnot to gain cavity maps. I find cavities easier to calculate for some reason. Ambient occlusion takes forever for my computer to actually calculate. And then I'll go export out each one of these different texture objects as a different texture, and then bring them over into my program, which is usually Maya to start with. So here you can see the final version in Maya, the low resolution model imbued with the materials of the normal map as well as the diffuse map. And I did actually bake out one other map. Normally I do everything in Photoshop, so I'll push everything out as PSDs. Let's close out all of these ones, and then I'll combine them all into one final map. And this is my cavity map, and the cavity map is going to be the part that glows, which I haven't actually completed yet, but I might make a video on just writing a shader that allows you to use one of your textures to actually pulse these different glowing elements in and out. So if you're interested in that, you know, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll just skip the whole thing. Then we can see the actual diffuse map right there. All of this stuff gets exported out as PNGs, then brought into Maya, and then finally from Maya, we go and do a file, send to Unity, and selection, which is this object right here, flame totem over there. And when you bring it into Unity, you ended up with something like this. Now, obviously, at this moment, the material has not been properly set up. You know, it's way too smooth. I'm going to need to potentially use something like the cavity map itself to reduce any kind of glossiness on the surface. And you know what, why don't we try to see what happens if we do that right now. We go to the game and textures, totem fire. Let's grab the diffuse map there, copy, and actually we're going to want the inverse of this, I think. White in this case was the parts that we're going to pulse with energy, but I want the exact opposite. So let's come over to Photoshop, go to cavity, hit Control I and Control U, and then do a desaturation on that entire object. Now let's go to File, Save As, and we'll go to PNG and go to my fire totem and the game. Oh, we're in Photoshop. We need to be in the texture folder. I do separate my Photoshop and texture folders from one another. So, and we're going to call this just spec for now. I'm not going to worry about glossiness and so forth. That's a different layer that we'd be dealing with. But anyway, we have that. So let's grab, if we right click and refresh, we can grab this. And let's just grab both of these, the spec and the cavity maps, and bring them into our Unity project. Yeah, show and explore. There we go. Okay, assets and totem and flame. And we're going to put them in the FBM section and paste them on in. There we are. Okay, now that that's in place, we can go over to our, well, we have emission, we have occlusion. Emission might be kind of cool for the moment before I write my own shader to use the cavity map for that. So that part's going to be emitting light. I'm going to go with a red. And then for our smoothness, we're currently under metallic. I'm going to go and work with the other form of the shader, which is the standard specular setup, which makes more sense to me just from previous work I've done. And let's go to specular and grab the spec map on this. Okay, and there we go. And now we're no longer shiny on the parts that we don't really want to be shiny upon, although the glossiness factor is going to have to be dealt with. And let's hit run really quick and bring up our game and move around. I did add some movement controls to the game recently, very basic ones. But there we can see our fire guy. Now what I need to do is actually, he's firing straight out from the top. I'm going to put a game object in there. It's going to fire up in a parabola, go up somewhere here. I don't know. I'll create some sort of an ax squared plus b plus c function that goes up and then down to its actual target so that it actually kind of seems like they're popping out. Or this tower might become something completely different. Instead of a direct damage tower, I might make another variation of it or give it the option of being an AoE tower where the fire just kind of pops out from all directions and hits things. And of course, there's the laser tower over here, which isn't fully functional yet. All it's got is one laser at the moment. Let's go to my game view actually to see this. So here's my tower. And we can see it's floating around. It's got one laser at the moment, but if we stop the game, you can see it can have up to 4 lasers for upgrading. This was a completely random video that has nothing to do with my current projects. This is a project I'm working on by myself, but I thought I'd give everyone an update and see what you thought. Oh, and there's also, where is it? The enemy spawner. Where are you? Let's frame up on you. Enemy spawner. Oh, there you are. Yes. Okay, so let's jump down there and start the game over again. We got the ground, it's breaking up, some really crappy particle effects that I just threw in, and then these guys start spawning out of it. The reason they are spawning on top of one another is because I don't have AI yet for the enemies programmed in, because I'm not sure what the targets should be in my game yet. The targets are probably going to be not only the towers themselves, but also some final target that you're trying to prevent these enemies from getting to. Or maybe you just play until you run out of money. And money is denoted with these gems at the moment. So score is how much you kill things. Money, on the other hand, let's get this over, is going to be these gemstones that you get for killing these different enemies. And then you'll, of course, use the gemstones to purchase towers. I'm actually not quite sure which direction I'm going in with this game. Basically, I'm creating a lot of different features, a lot of different functionality. I'm going to see what works and what doesn't work, what's fun and what isn't fun, all in one level. And then if it's cool, we're going to get a game out of it. And if it's not interesting, well, I'll reuse these assets for something else. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that kind of weird random rant I just went on about a game that I'm making. And, I hope it was somewhat interesting, and if you want to know more about the game in the future, let me know. If this is something I'm working on, every other night by myself. So, I will see you all next time, hopefully with more tutorials and video updates on things like OpenCV, Android, and all the other different topics that I seem to be talking about every now and then. So long, bye.